Okay, so I am pink. You are Kaito.
Yeah.
You're red.
Domo arigato.
And you're yellow.
What do you mean I'm yellow? What, you calling me a chicken?
You know that that's not what she said, so sit down!
Oh, gomenasai.
That's right, I let you live
Hey,
here for free.
everybody shut up. Robbie just posted a new video.
Magine. Magine.
What, is the Wi-Fi down?
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Robbie. You're watching Geek Level Asian. Let's talk about Episode 3, Zenkaiger. I know this video is a little late. The episode came out probably like 5 days to a week ago now. But I'm pleasantly surprised with the things that we learned in the episode. And we've been introduced, finally, to our pink Kikinoid, Magine. So we're going to do an introduction to Magine. We're going to do highlights, lowlights, and then the questions now that have been raised since the ending of this episode. I'll also end it with my opinion. I think I should start doing that because I basically talk about what happens in the episode. I'll talk about my opinion too. So as always, everybody, don't forget to like the video to help other Super Sentai fans get this video in their YouTube feed. So let's get started. So, Magine is the pink Kikinoid. She is our third Kikinoid to join the Zenkaiger team. Let's get the obvious things out of the way. Her civilian look, basically her base form, is probably the one that I think is the most of a stretch. She's supposed to look like, you know how in Magine Ranger the 5 Rangers are siblings, the Ozu family? She's supposed to look like she's wearing what they wear. I don't really see it other than the skirt, but that's what her character design is based off of. Her henshin form is supposed to look like Maji King, which is pretty obvious when you look at the design. And her mecha form, in my opinion, is so far the best one, which is Magine Dragon, which is, you know, that is a beloved mecha form in all of Super Sentai, and it flies. So obviously, since she's supposed to look like all of these different designs from Magine Ranger, all of her abilities are based on magic. So now this, especially after what we saw in the episode, really makes her the most powerful. In JuraGaon and Gaon's episodes, yeah, they're hand-to-hand combat type of guys. I mean, Gaon is the wild one, you know, and they all use the gear tlingers and stuff. But none of them, or both of them, none of them, like there's a lot of them, neither of them have, like, specific abilities, it seems, from their past seasons. Magine can do quite a bit. We've only seen a little bit so far in this first episode that she's in, but so far, what we've seen is that she can use magic to basically negate the special abilities of whatever the monster is. The monster in this episode is an ice monster from Ice World, and so everything is like super slippery, so she's able to use magic to basically put like magic spikes on their feet so that they can actually walk without slipping and sliding everywhere. The other ability that they show when it comes to her magical prowess is it's almost like Green Lantern when they create constructs. She creates basically that, like, you know, like that cup game where you have to guess where the ball or whatever is in the cup, guess where it is. She does that to confuse her opponent strategically so that she can attack them. If she can create constructs of any kind, that makes her pretty powerful. I'm curious to see what her attacks are gonna look like along the way as we go forward. When it comes to her origin and who she actually is, it does flash back to when she was a child Kikinoid, which raises a few questions, but she actually knew JuraGaon when she was a little kid, and she was like really shy, you know, kind of like, it reminds me of Hinata from Naruto.
Naruto.
But basically, JuraGaon is kind of like the change agent for her and helps her break out of her shell and play with the other child Kikinoids. And that is actually, her memory of this is actually what makes her join the Zenkaiger team. But before she actually does, before she joins, she's super, you know, she's very self-conscious of her, she's a fortune teller with her magical abilities, and they're not so great at first. She's very self-conscious of them, she keeps directing them in the wrong directions. And this really makes Gaon actually very upset because he already doesn't, again, he's a self-loather, he already doesn't like Kikinoids, so he just feels like she's wasting time and she's a fraud. But that's when we see Magine's scary side, and I love the body language of the transformation. Basically, Gaon confronts her about her abilities being not good, and she does this, like, head swing, and then she, you know, and then she gets very confident and starts yelling at Gaon. Very much a Super Sentai, very much an anime trope. So now some highlights. Highlights are basically the things that I liked about the episode. They did stick with the gear tlinger joke. So basically every time that Kaito hands one of the Kikinoids a gear tlinger and accepts them onto the team, both Gaon and JuraGaon I don't say accidentally, but purposely shot one of the henchmen, knocking them over because they weren't taught how to henshin yet. Instead of doing that, Magine actually points the Geartlinger at herself and almost shoots herself in the face. Definitely, actually, that's not funny. That's not a funny thing, but they made it funny. But I mean, she is made of like steel or metal or whatever Kikinoids are made out of, so it probably just would have bounced off or created a spark. We get to see a new mecha transformation, which is ZenkaiOh Jura Magine, which is an awesome one. I mean, first of all, again, like I said earlier, Magine Dragon flies. So basically what this did is it combines red and pink, and now you have a gigantic mecha with wings. And as we all know from Star Wars and Obi-Wan Kenobi, those in battle who have the high ground have the advantage. I love the scene where they use the Tokyuger Sentai gear for two reasons. One, I think it's always cool just to see the, you know, even if it's just a hologram or whatever you want to call it, of the Sentai team. And I love what the attack actually was, because in the last episode, Gaon mentioned that when they use the Sentai gears, it moves their bodies for them. So basically, they all move together in the train formation and then kind of just zoomed past the villains, you know, attacking them. I thought the monster in this episode was pretty cool. He's basically Mr. Freeze from Batman. He just freezes everything. The entire world is frozen. So we did get a bunch of funny scenes of our heroes slipping and sliding and messing up. I thought it was interesting that the Toji Tendo Barishitara, if I'm saying his name right, he slipped and slid also. He wasn't able to stand on the ice. But for some reason later, the henchmen are able to do that. I don't know. What is interesting also about this ice world is there is a shot of a civilian man who's driving in a car and from the ice has a car accident and he's basically dead. So now Lowlights. Not really too much to complain about, and this is not something specific about this episode, but I've noticed that on the Geartlinger, you crank with your right hand, which means you hold the Geartlinger in your left hand. For some reason, that just feels wrong to me. I'm a righty, obviously, that's my own opinion, but I feel like the crank should be on the left. I don't know. Because in the scene where they do the Zenkai finish Buster, I was watching them do it, and I'm like doing the motion with them, and I'm like, that's not my strong hand, it's just not. So now some questions. I do have a few questions. I'm not sure if this is relevant to Kaito's character, the show in the future itself, and what we learn about this reality and the world of humans and Kikinoids, but for some reason, Kaito doesn't know what an Ice Age is. The Monster of the Week mentions a new Ice Age, and the Kikinoids know what it is, but Kaito doesn't. I don't know if that's relevant. Maybe it was just a joke. I don't know. They might touch upon that in the future. Who knows? Because if they don't, and if it's just a joke, that just makes Kaito look like he's kind of stupid. So now this isn't really too much of a question. It's more of a theory. But at the end of the episode, Magine uses her crystal ball to see the future and do her fortune telling. And we see Vroom's glasses in it. And we know that the next episode is going to be Vroom's episode where they introduce him. They showed it in the preview. I wonder if her fortune-telling ability is going to act like basically like Navi in Zenkaiger, where they use the crystal ball to figure out what to do next or what their mission is going to be. I don't know if it's always going to be them reacting to a new Monster of the Week that's made out of one of the Tojir gears. So what's my opinion about this particular episode? I like Zenkaiger. I thought the first few episodes were going up. I feel like this one is like even. It wasn't up, it was more even. I didn't hate it, but for some reason I didn't love it. Which is weird because I really liked the Magine Dragon scenes. But I don't know, I really hope the next episode kind of takes the show a little bit further than I think this one did. And I don't blame them, right? I don't blame the writers and directors. They're just trying to introduce the characters. Totally get that. I know that as a viewer who's watched many Sentai series, we've got to get through this first before they start taking off, and we learn like way more interesting things. But, you know, that was my opinion. I watched it, and I wasn't as like really stoked as I was for the first few. But I'd love to hear your opinions on episode 3 and what you think is going to happen in the future. Were you thinking the things that I was thinking? Do you have any other theories, or do you think that maybe things are going to go in a different direction? Leave all that stuff in the comments. So if you want to keep up with my Super Sentai and Toku videos, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You could also follow me on social media. Most active on Instagram, and I'm paying attention more again to TikTok. And that's it, everybody. Be well, and may the power protect you.